Hello, good morning, and a very warm greetings from Sweden to all of you. My name is Kartik Baruah. I am an associate professor and research group leader at Aquaculture, Nutraceuticals and Resilience Group at the Swedish University of Agriculture Sciences. It's very unfortunate that I could not attend this meeting in person. Just the last moment I have to cancel my trip because of some health issue for one of my family members. So the inconvenience is highly regretted. I hope that we can meet and interact in the next occasion. But thanks to the technology that we have today, that at least I could share this interesting topic on Artemia being used as a feed ingredients or feed in animal feed, I would say, and what are the opportunities in Africa, what are the opportunities in other parts of the world. So why feed? Well, the first thing that crosses your mind obviously will be that it is the cost, because in any animal farming sector, I think feed is the major cost. It's around 60-70% of the cost, operational cost is feed. There are other things also that, like the quality is important. That's why it's very important, because that regulates the performance of the animals, that regulates the productivity of the farm, and so on. And also feed is important because of a lot of regulatory compliances, because nowadays if you want to add the feed ingredients, it has to have certain requirements, because anyhow it goes to the human food chain. Sustainability is another important thing. You hear a lot about sustainable feed, so that's also very important. Sustainable in terms of continuous supply, sustainable in terms of, for example, the ecological footprint and so on. So it's also very important. And this carbon footprint or ecological footprint for the last 1 decade has been a very, very important topic. And I have been in different meetings where, be it with shrimp feed or with animal feed, we need to make sure that the feed ingredients that we are adding in the feed are coming from a novel source. It has to have less and less carbon footprint. I would like to a little bit walk you through this different generation of feed ingredients. So we have these 3-generation feed ingredients. The first generations are like the fish meal and fish oil. These are the conventional feed sources. Second generations are more like those insect meal. These are the feed, the products or the non-food sources that are not directly competing with the human. And so these are like the rice bran, like the seaweeds, and like this, like the pound cake and so on. We have also the 3rd-generation feed ingredients, like these are more like a future feed ingredients. Microbial protein, the single-cell proteins, the GMO ingredients, and so on. These are the 3rd-generation feed ingredients. I have to say that why I'm sharing this is that I don't know where to position Artemia. Basically, we don't know but this is something that I would like to, if you consider this discussing and find an answer, where do we put Artemia biomass as a feed ingredient? Where do we put, in which generations? Where do we categorize it? This is something it would be nice if we can discuss in this meeting. So as I say, that it could be also possible that it is somewhere in between the conventional and the non-conventional ingredients. It's also possible, but this is something that we need to find a way to position Artemia in this different category of feed ingredients. I have been doing a lot of literature studies to find and to collect some data, and these are some data that I would like to express to compare the nutritional content of the Artemia meal and compare with other conventional and non-conventional feed ingredients. So as you can see, this orange bar, you see that if you look at the crude protein content of Artemia meal or Artemia biomass, you see that it stands quite tall compared to other feed ingredients. Like it's at par with insect meal, it's at par with the single cell proteins, it even better than the soybean meal Obviously, it's slightly lower when it comes to the fish meal. But if you look at the another important nutritional element component, and that is the lipid, you see that Artemia here, the Artemia here stands quite tall when it comes to the lipid content. So this is very, 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 very important to consider, in fact. Let's look at the distribution of Artemia. This is the slide that was one of my colleagues has presented at an FAO meeting organized by IAC, in fact. And then in this meeting, we have been seeing that, but that Artemia basically is scattered everywhere. So that's actually a good news that you can find Artemia in different parts of the world. If I zoom into this in Africa, here again you see that Artemia activities are ongoing at different parts in different countries in Africa. So that's again very good news when it comes to local productions and you know, local feed productions and so on. Point to be noted is that these Artemia are mostly the activities of Artemia or the production of Artemia or the culture or of Artemia. These are being taken place in places like salt lakes, salt pens, which I consider is as an arid land. So you cannot have other farming activities, but in this particular place you have Artemia activities going on. It's not only that Artemia can be produced in a monoculture way, it can be also, it can be integrated with other farming sector. As you can see that this is an Artemia can be integrated with the fish farming sector because the waste that are generated from the fish farming or shrimp farming activities can be used to culture Artemia, to culture biomass, in fact. And this is a review paper. It's a very well written review paper where they have clearly mentioned how the waste can be turned into a novel Artemia feed ingredients. This is a very interesting work conducted by a group in Mexico. What they have done is that they have been sampling Artemia biomass every month and measuring the nutritional composition, particularly protein and lipids. And I'm sharing only the lipid because it's very important, the lipid and particularly the essential fatty acids is very important nutrients. So you see that there is a temporal change in the nutritional profile of particularly the lipid content of the Artemia that are being harvested in different months. And if you zoom in to the essential fatty acids, you see quite a high content in the EPA and DHA, and it varies based on season. And why I'm stressing this on this particular study is that basically we can regulate, so meaning that the environment can regulate the nutritional content of our feed ingredients in a non-GMO approach. Very, very interesting. We don't need to play with the gene editing and all to improve or reduce the things. We can play with the environment to improve the quality. For example, in this case, the lipid content of the Artemia feed ingredients or feed meal, or Artemia, sorry, meal. This is also another interesting thing. As you know that Artemia has a chitin, and I call this chitin as a soluble chitin, a digestible chitin, unlike the hard chitin in crayfish or fish meal, the shrimp. This has a chitin which is basically soluble. And many of you will know that chitin has a strong immunostimulant. It has a health beneficial effect, as you can see in this paper. Chitogens or chitins, these are nutraceuticals. So when I say nutraceuticals, that it has both not only basic nutritional benefits, but it also has health benefits. So this makes me to come to the next slide and to make a conclusion that at least Artemia goes or is far more than a feed ingredient. In fact, it is a nutritional ingredient, sorry, nutraceutical ingredients. So Artemia is a nutraceutical ingredient. That's something that I would like to position Artemia because of all the nutritional as well as the health benefits, potential health benefits that it can cause to the farm animals. I would like to share with you some case studies where Artemia meal has been used as a animal feed, and when we wanted to introduce feed ingredients, the first thing that we do is to answer or to check the digestibility, because we need to make sure that it is digestible, and it has an impact on the growth. So the better the digestibility, the better its impact on the health and growth of the animals. So this is a work carried by a group in Iran, and what they have done is that in this work they have replaced a fish meal completely with an Artemia meal, and they fed it to the broiler chicks and checked their digestibility. And here you can see that the digestibility, this is the crude protein digestibility here, they were around 85%, which is quite good, I would say. So 85% apparent protein digestibility was around 85%, which is again quite interesting. In another study, again, a group in Iran who have tried to compare an Artemia meal that is produced from an Ulmia lake, an Artemia meal that is being generated from the Artemia biomass that is collected from an artesian pond. And so these are cultured Artemia. So they compare these two Artemia meal, and basically focusing on the impact of this meal on the growth of the broilers. And what they did is that this is a control group where it's completely fish meal, 100% fish meal based diet, and then they replace the fish meal by 25%, 50, 75, and also by 100% with this Artemia meal. And what they found is that there is no difference in the growth. So even if you replace fish meal completely with Artemia meal, the growth was not affected. That was very interesting. In another study, not another study, same study, they also compared this the Artemia meal from the Ulmia lake, and they found the same here. Even if you replace fish meal with Artemia meal by 100%, they didn't find any difference in the weight gain. In fact, at 50% inclusion level or replacement level, they found a better growth here of the broilers. That's quite interesting. And please keep in mind, in this study, they have been feeding the chicks, they have been feeding the growers, and also they have used this feed as a finisher diet. So it's a full, the full cycle of the studies. So that's what's very interesting. Coming to the aquaculture, so this is again a very interesting work carried out by a group in Vietnam. So what they have done is that they have grown the Artemia biomass on the waste, shrimp waste, and fed this Artemia biomass to the shrimps. And they have given this Artemia biomass a different inclusion level, as you can see here. And what they found is that at the end of the study, the survival was much better compared to the shrimps that were fed only with fish meal. So this means that something is happening, some health benefits is happening, that they are survived better, they are growing better, and as you can see when I say growing, in fact the biomass was also very high here. So this means that there is some nutraceutical impact or effects going on there. So that's again a very interesting work. For this particular meeting, I had I have been having a lot of discussion with different feed companies in Asia, also in Europe. For example, with Elereco, which has a manufacturing unit, production plant in Zambia, and so I had a lot of discussion with some of my collaborators there. Elereco is I collaborate quite a lot with Elereco, and also with some of the farmers in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, Kenya, and Zambia. We have been discussing with them and asking the questions. Will you be able to accept Artemia meal in your formulations? Well, the most of the time, particularly the companies, they were telling that, well, it needs to be price competitive. So what I try to do is to show them is that, look, fish meal on a dry weight basis, it's around 1.6 USD per kilo on a dry weight basis. Then I also calculated the Artemia meal, which comes to around $1 US per kilo on a dry weight basis, And I think when I show this, they find it quite interesting. Of course, upscaling and all these things have been also discussed, but it is a matter of planning and all those things. But if we have a figure like this, they were quite impressed with this type of figures. And I think the farmers that we also discussed in Africa, which are small-scale feed producers, they find this very interesting. And I also then highlighted the other part, because I know when we were discussing with the farmers also in Indonesia and in India and all, most of the farmers, they use quite a lot of feed additives as a top coating. And I strongly believe that if you use Artemia meal, because it is a nutraceutical ingredient, I think I have the gut feeling that we can replace, if not entirely, but at least partially, we can replace the feed additives, which will also dramatically reduce the feed cost. And because additives, because of the export and import, it is a cost. And it is not only a cost, but it also contributes a lot to the carbon footprint, these all export imports of the feed additives. So basically, if we position Artemia as a nutraceutical ingredient, I think it can contribute a lot to develop a sustainable feed. Very quick about the work that we are doing at the SLU. We work quite a lot on circular feed. We have different projects going on now to convert the waste into nutraceutical ingredients, and with the intention of using those ingredients to feed to shrimps and tilapia and salmon, and as well as the chickens. We have an ongoing project where we are trying to, it's a World Fish project that it's been a 5 years project that we are trying to develop sustainable feed for aquaculture. And this project is focused in Zambia, in sub-Saharan region, particularly in Zambia, Kenya, and in Nigeria. And we have two students. I have two students now here at the SLU. One is Patience, who is from Zambia, who is focusing on tilapia, and Arnold from Nigeria, who is focusing on catfish. And the objective of their PhD is to develop sustainable feed for these two important species in Africa. And in their project, we have also a very important element, and that is to see if we can also produce Artemia meal in a circular approach. We have collected a lot of ingredients, waste ingredients, single-cell proteins, and so on from Africa, and we are trying to see which of the ingredients, or which of the, I call waste, but I call it resources, we can use it to grow Artemia in the best way, and whether this Artemia, playing around also with the nutrition compositions, and can they be used back into as a Artemia meal for growing tilapia and catfish. So both Arnold and Patience are working on that, in addition to other conventional non-conventional ingredients. And hopefully in the next meeting, either me or us, so we all together, hopefully we can share those results, because I know that I have to say that a lot of work has been done in Artemia being used as a live feed, but not a lot of work has been done on studies on Artemia biomass being used as an Artemia meal. So if you look at the literature search, some studies have been done. I think we need to do more and more study, and basically from a lab to lab approach studies, because I strongly believe that Artemia is far more just than a protein or lipid sources. It is a nutraceutical, it has the potential of nutraceutical ingredient. We need to do more studies, because if we can demonstrate that, we will be able to develop a functional diet that is very important for a climate smart farming. And not only for that, it is also very important for example, for employment generations. There is a potential for new market opportunities, and also for a sustainable or resilient food production system. Thank you very much, and I wish all of you to have a very productive meeting. Have a good day. Bye-bye.